Okay, so welcome to the node.js Diagnostic Working Group meeting, March 10th, 2021. To start with, are there any announcements? I take it as a no. So we go with the regular agenda. The first one in the list is 36394, which is async hooks use new V8 context promise hook API. Stephen?
Yeah, so I've made some updates to that. The V8 folks got back with the review the other day, and they changed their mind on deferring some things to a follow-up PR or follow-up change. So I have a couple more changes I need to make. Hopefully, we'll be done this week. And then once the V8 changes are done, then updating the nodes change should be pretty easy.
So the next one is 437, which is identify async hook use cases beyond async local storage.
Yeah, I still have a task to write a blog post for that. I was going to write a blog post so we can get some more community input on that. Just haven't had the time for that yet. Hopefully I can do that this week.
I guess related to that, I see there's some activity around making async local storage non-experimental. I don't know if there's anything worth mentioning on that one.
Yeah, there's a PR for that. I don't think I've seen a PR for async resource yet, though. So I might have to check and see what this.
Yeah, that I didn't. Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. And I know that the proposal that was discussed earlier, actually, the scope was just talking about async local storage, so that might be related. But
I think it's okay to do it in 2
We should try and get
PRs.
6 marked as stable for, or we should try and get it marked as stable for the new 6 version that's coming out.
16, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that should be part of the existing PR, or is it fine to be a separate, like get the current one landed and then?
It's fine separate. Yeah, I can just have a look at what the current state is of that and just open another PR for that.
Sounds good.
So the current one already has several approvals, so it's maybe best to just do it in 2 steps.
Yeah, I'd agree. Don't slow it down in any way, right?
Any other questions or discussions on 437? Okay, moving on. Next one is 99, which is add black box by default by Rafael. I see the PR is in draft state.
Yeah, we discussed it in the last meeting. We don't know if the behavior you said is really expected, so we decided to comment in the PR to, I don't know, to get some help from folks who have done some work in the the inspector, but still don't have any answers. So we are frozen in this part.
So just to get the context, this is for hiding the source modules that belongs to the core. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. After node
When you're
15, after node 15, we have the modules, internal modules prefixed by node, and we can also add the black box by default. This is mainly based in the node issue. I will send here this issue that have a lot of description, and we have we decided to go to the black box by default, but this PR shows that perhaps we have some bug in the pattern matching, because when a debugger breakpoint goes to the internal modules internal folder specifically, does not skip the pattern match, does not match, and are expected to every file inside node prefix will not be called when we call the inspector, but this not seems constant, and we don't know if this is expected or is really a bug that needs to be fixed.
So just so I understand, the black box basically hides some frames and stuff, right? But
Yeah.
but you're saying that you can still set breakpoints on the ones that we think are hidden?
When we add the black box, for instance, if you go to step into some internal module, this will skip to only your core module.
Right.
I mean, you will not see the internal modules during your inspector.
Right. Okay. But that's what the black box was attempting, was trying to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the problem part though? Like, so okay, so if I step, it'll skip the things, but I'm not quite clear what the problem is.
Yeah, there is no a bug or problem. There is no a bug to solve, but this idea is really to add this setting by default for folks that want to debug some modules. Does not need to set the black box manually. This should be by default, and this will be able to us after node prefix. But when you set a breakpoint in some piece of your code, and you step into this code, probably you will see some source code of node internal. This is not expected. In the PR, if you see, we have the example. The first example is the current behavior. If you go to the file, the fs read file, and you go to the step into, you will see the node fs in the line 322. But if you add this add black box by default,
Yep.
you will see the internal validators. But internal validator is not expected to see, in my opinion.
Ah, okay. So it's hiding some code, but not all of the internal code is the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And this only occur with internal folder.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Yeah, now I
So I'm
understand.
just wondering, yeah, definitely it looks like a bug to me because it doesn't meet the stated purpose, and the internal folders belong to the core, so that's just not hidden properly. So I'm just wondering the if there is a static list that was supplied to the V8 that's saying that these are the modules which reside in node core, and for whatever reason the internal folder was not in the list. I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
So we are using a new feature, which is the node prefix require to determine if it's a node core module or not. I'm wondering if this prefix is missing on internal modules, maybe.
Yeah, possible.
So if we don't get any other thoughts regarding it, we can assume that it can be a bug fix, a bug that needs to be fixed.
I think so. It's like we should probably figure out if there's a node prefix on the internal modules, however that would look like. And if it's not, then maybe a PR to add it would be a good place to have that discussion.
Okay, so I would say to remove this PR of the JAG agenda, and when the issue or the PR for fix this pattern matching, the rejects, I don't know, we add and move forward.
Okay, so you were going to take a look at looking at that, like whether the internal was properly prefixed or not, and creating the PR. Is that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
okay.
a new PR for that.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense to me anyway.
Anything else on this? No. So that's the end of the regular agenda.
Yeah, I asked Richard just to come, and he's doing some work related to the diagnostic journeys. So I thought it would be good to just him to give a quick update so that this team has some awareness in terms of that work.
Yeah, hi.
Okay.
Oh, yep. I've been asked to help uninstall the diagnostic user journeys work. So I've been looking at the current state of things, and hopefully over the next couple of weeks we'll try and help that move along a bit. I have identified roughly sort of 10 bits of work that could be done as sort of discrete bits of work, and I'm wondering if that would be better tracked as a sort of single issue, or split, raised as sort of 10 separate issues so that they could be picked up individually. What do you guys think, or people think? Basically sort of spelling out sort of further bits of work that could be done, and then sort of trying to tackle them one by one.
I prefer to have multiple issues because
Okay.
they logically split the work items, and they help us to visualize small pieces of work as opposed to a large monolith.
Yep, that's fine. So I can do that over the next couple of days.
Okay, so I guess that's really all I was hoping hoping for Richard to cover. Let you know, and I guess through the issues, you know, if people are interested in helping drive some of those forward, you can jump in and volunteer as well. Because I think there's at least been a few people who've shown interest in working on those, and if we have some smaller bits defined, it might make it a little easier. So.
Yeah, if I understand correctly, the barrier was that on one side we have a user journey document which is huge. We spend a considerable amount of time compiling the document. It's a collection of all the experience of the people who are involved in that. And then that needs to be translated or transformed into more consumable set of documents which are specifically targeting as an issue or as a user journey. So that translation, that breaking up into pieces and that translation is where I think at least new joiners are finding it a little difficult. From my perspective, bandwidth is an issue.
Yes. But just an example, I think there are certain things that could be done sort of in isolation of the entire picture, if you will. So there are one or two documents that are currently in the repository about using a specific tool, and that could be worked on, and then further work be done to integrate, you know, how to use that tool into the actual user story. It doesn't all have to be done in one go. In terms of work division. So, you know, if someone does know how to use a particular tool that we haven't written up yet, that could be a starting point to just write up how you would use a particular tool, you know, what you would run, what baddies you need to look out for. And then that can be tied later on into a sort of larger user story as to sort of making it connecting all together, maybe using multiple tools. But, you know, at the very start, there are some basic building blocks that I think could be written up. I mean, there are some documents that we have which are just basically placeholders at the moment. And those would be probably a good first place to start for anyone looking to make their first contributions to the repository.
Agree? Yeah.
I also think once it's further along, it will be easier as well, because once you start to see it take shape, it's easier for people to imagine how to do a little bit of work. So.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on this topic?
No, not for me. That's all I had to say.
All right. So that should be the end of our all the discussions. Anything else? Anybody want to talk about before we wind up for today?
I don't know how much there really is to say immediately, but I've joined Datadog recently, and my focus is on the profiler. So I'm going to be doing some work on like V8 profiler in the future. If anyone has any experience they want to share with it, be good to chat sometime.
Do you have any ideas on what you'll be working on the profiler?
So the Datadog product it's attached to is a continuous profiler. So our hope is we can make some adjustments to the existing V8 profiler to make it at least reasonable for continuous profiling. I suspect in its current state, it's not going to be super viable. The overhead will be a bit much.
So the CPU profiler or the memory profiler?
Mainly CPU profiler, but yeah. The heap profiler.
We tried to use it in the past. It's also in production for our agent. and the overhead itself is not that high, so it's quite efficient. The main problem we faced was that starting the profiler is a blocking operation, because they have to copy over a lot of information, so which function is located where in memory, to a separate thread. And if you have a lot of functions, then this can take a while. So there is an issue where I described it in more detail and also provided a reproducer, which is not a realistic application, but just shows the problem. And this was one problem we had. And the other problem we had is that if you use native extensions, then sometimes they show up as strange. So if a profile sample is taken when you are native, then the resulting data was somehow strange, I would say. So I never got the 100% reproducer. And as we are not using it anymore, so I stopped working on this. It was also different between Node versions and Windows and Linux. But it seems like whenever you are not in JavaScript code, then the result was not that reliable. So that you have leaves on the tree which are simply, I would say, incorrect, or partially correct maybe.
Yeah, we have used it in production quite a lot. We didn't notice any significant overhead on startup. I think the overhead is probably very tied to the application, like the application size, maybe the number of functions, etc. I suggest opening a new issue, Stephen, so we can discuss some of those things. The current CPU profiler roadmap is a bit long to continue using.
Yeah, I've been tracking down a couple like old issues about the profiler, just trying to piece together what the current state is and figure out what my priorities are going to be in the future. The immediate term is mostly just like, get the thing working, and then once it's actually working, then figure out performance improvements and things like that in the future.
So maybe also worth to mention that at the time we were using it from native. So not via the inspector API, which is meanwhile available. We used it directly from native,
Yep.
which is most likely not what you prefer in Datadog Agent currently.
Yep. Yeah, we currently have a prototype that's built on the inspector API, and it's not great.
All right. If nothing else, I think that's it for today. And talk to you in 2 weeks' time.
Talk to everybody later. Bye.